Hello friends, it's May 1st, and what are we planting in May? Here are the 10 things. And some of them you're planting indoors, some of you're direct sowing outdoors, right in the soil, and I'm going to give you a few things to keep in mind as you're sowing seeds this month. So here in the Finger Lakes, it's about 4 weeks before final frost. So that means we're sowing all the things inside that need just a few weeks. And right at the top of, but we're also direct sowing lots of things that still like to germinate in the cool season. So right at the top of that list are peas, of course. It's not spring unless I'm planting peas. And every 6 inches of my pea rows I plant radishes as well, because why not? They're perfect interplanting. In 3 weeks I'll be harvesting these radishes just as the peas are really going for it. So they're a perfect thing to plant to celebrate the 1st of May. Sometimes you can certainly be planting them 5 weeks ago, depending on the season. This year has been so cold and so wet, so it's kind of last call for peas. So if you haven't already, early May is the perfect time to get your peas in the ground. And next, flowers. Here are the flowers you want to start indoors 4 to 6 weeks before last frost. So certainly marigolds, definitely want to transplant, as well as your zinnias. And cosmos don't do too bad direct sown, but you want to direct sow them in the soil when the soil is nice and warm. So if you transplant them now, if you start them indoors now to transplant a month from now, you'll be getting that many more blossoms that much earlier. And you'll notice a lot of these 3 seeds in particular, they're long and narrow. I generally plant them like this, horizontally on the soil rather than vertically. And so next, another direct sown phenomena. If you haven't already, you want to plant spinach. And spinach, similar to peas, you can plant them as soon as the soil can be worked. So other years, like last year, we planted them almost 6 weeks ago. But because this is such a cold, wet year, if you haven't planted it now, go for it. And there's Asian spinach, there's Beaujolais that has that lovely red burgundy center. And the cool thing about Asian spinach is that regular spinach, oh man, needs to grow in the cold. It will just bolt in the heat, where Asian spinach will totally blossom, sprout and be so happy in any season, whether it's fall, spring, or summer. And other things to be direct sowing now, cilantro. Cilantro hates being transplanted. It also doesn't like to grow in the warm, and that's why it's constantly bolting on you all summer long. But if you plant it now, first thing in the spring, or ideally in the fall, it overwinters, and then you have this wonderful spring crop that's lush green. You can recut it, you can cut it and cut it again several times before it bolts and goes to seed by the time the summer heat comes on. Other herbs that you want to be starting now, 4 weeks before final frost: basil and parsley. And these are things that you really want to start indoors. Especially the parsley takes its time. The basil, you've got some options. I always like to transplant it because I'm just weeding less. And I love to eat the delicious thinnings as well. So yes, parsley and basil, start now. Lettuce, you can also start now. These are my 2 favorites. Flashy Troutback and Winter Density. They're great in cool seasons. Winter Density is also ironically great in the summer as well. It's very bolt tolerant. But these are my 2 picks for early May sowings. And you can either sow them indoors or outdoors. If you're really going for it, do both. Because what you grow indoors is going to grow much faster, and then by the time you plant it outdoors, it'll already be that much farther ahead of what you've direct sown, and you've got these wonderful successions ready-made for you to enjoy that much more lettuce this season. Just a few more, friends. It's now the perfect time to start, if you haven't already, your kale and your Swiss chard. And these 2, they can be transplanted as well as direct sown. I always love to transplant them because then I'm just weeding less. But there's lots of great things, lots of great reasons to do both. And if you haven't already, they're not going to mind if it's quite cold again in the coming weeks, and you're going to be eating them all the way to the holidays. Other things to start indoors this month. I recommend your broccoli and your cauliflower cabbage. And you can start either of these whenever this month, but the earlier the better, especially with the broccoli. Broccoli will be that much more sweet if it is planted in such that it will be growing in the cooler weather rather than trying to mature in the heat of summer, which just makes it want to bolt. and be more fibrous. So go ahead and plant your broccoli and cabbage. And things to direct sow this season as well. In the month of May, your carrots and your beets. Now is definitely the time. Beets are a little more cold tolerant than carrots, and yeah, there are so many reasons. You can be planting them now, and you can plant your final succession of them in the beginning, middle of August here in the Finger Lakes, and every 2 to 3 weeks in between you can be sowing additional successions so that you never stop enjoying them all throughout the season. So there you have it, my friends. These are the things that we're sowing this month in the month of May. Happy May, happy spring, and don't be shy.